Hey everyone, it's your buddy, it's your pal, Karnak, Star Wars Armada Explained. We're doing another Squadrons video today. We're going to look at A-Wings, a classic iconic ship that first appeared in Return of the Jedi, one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Because I like a lot of Star Wars movies, so that's not saying much. So let's jump right on in. So as I mentioned, we're doing the A-Wings, and there's 4 squadrons you can get with the A-Wings. We'll just jump right in with the generic A-Wing here. All the A-Wings are faction specific for the Rebel Alliance. You'll see there the A-Wing being a generic squadron. You can bring as many of them as you have squadron points to bring, which in a standard 400-point game is up to 134 points of squadrons. Bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the icon for the A-Wing. Opposite of that, you'll see its point cost, only 11 points. So A-Wing's not super expensive, but as we get into them, you'll find that they're really good, and you kind of will see them as a staple in Rebel Alliance fleet that's looking for a light squadron screen or otherwise, and we'll get into that. So the first thing you're going to see right underneath their name, you're going to see these 4 boxes. The first box there on the left, the yellow one, signifies how far they can move. They can move up to distance 5. Next box there is a hull value. They have 4 hit points. They have an anti-squadron armament of 3 blue die and an anti-ship armament of 1 black die. So pretty good for their point cost compared to, as we're going to see with the TIE Interceptors here in just 1 second. The only keyword that they have for the generic A-Wing is counter 2. So A-Wings and TIE Interceptors are essentially the quote-unquote equivalent to each other. Interceptors being that they have only 3 hull, but they get swarm, but their anti-ship armament is only 1 blue die, anti-squadron 4 blue die. So you see there's kind of some comparisons between the two. A-Wings are a bit sturdier, and they're a little bit better at bombing capital ships than Interceptors. Interceptors are a little bit more powerful in the anti-squadron, but not so good on the anti-ship. And they are a little bit weaker. So, they're pretty comparable, I would say, for each being 11 points. And at some point I will cover the Interceptors. I haven't covered them yet. Alright, so let's talk about how does counter work. So counter is after a squadron performs a non-counter attack against you, you may attack that squadron with an anti-squadron armament of 2 blue die, even if you are destroyed. So let's say that this A-Wing here is being a super cool guy. He's just sitting there. His interceptor rolls up and says, "Hey, I don't like you." And he shoots and he blasts him with 4 blue die, and he deals 1 damage. Well, that interceptor, the A-Wing says, "Well, guess what? I don't like you either. I'm going to roll 2 blue die back at you. And hey, look, we each suffered 1 damage." So in actuality, Interceptor, because he rolled so poorly, he came out worse in that exchange than the A-Wing did. And that's counter. So for Rebels, counter the A-Wing, like I said, it's really good for screening and trying to go after any other enemy squadrons and take them out. And again, when they're shooting other squadrons, they're rolling 3 blue die, and when they're attacking ships, they roll a black die for their damage. Now remember, since they are not bomber, only the hit symbols on the black die count for damage, not the critical symbols. Except, as we get into, we'll see here, for the next squadron, we have Green Squadron, made famous with the yelling, screaming guy diving into the Superstar Destroyer bridge. That was Green Squadron. That guy was the squadron leader. So what's the difference with Green Squadron? You'll see there above its name, it says there's a little dotted bullet point, and then Green Squadron signifies that squadron is unique. You can only ever have 1 Green Squadron in your fleet. It's got all the same stats for an A-Wing, except that instead of having counter 2, it only has counter 1, but it gains the keyword bomber, which is while attacking a ship, your critical icons do count as damage. So if you do roll the hit critical symbol on the black die, you are dealing 2 damage, not just 1 damage. And you're able to resolve the standard critical effect. And Green Squadron's only 12 points, so we still, like, if you're bringing a bunch of A-Wings and you have an extra point, you might as well bring Green Squadron along, just because when you do eventually potentially, chew through an enemy squadron ball, Green Squadron is kind of just a nice finisher. You use all your other A-Wings to try to strip all the shields off, and then end with Green Squadron to try to see if you can throw some of that extra critical damage into a ship. And otherwise than that, Green Squadron you really don't want to have getting shot very much because, again, he only has the counter 1 compared to counter 2. But he's fast, he's bomber. He's for 12 points, he's great. All right, now let's get into the aces. We have 2 aces for A-Wings. The first one I want to talk about is Shara Bey. I mean, she is such a Bey. Just because as we get into her ability, she's so good. All right, so Shara Bey, again, dot bullet point in front of her name signifies she is unique. You can only have one of her in your fleet. Again, all the same stats as we already know, up to distance 5, 4 hull, 3 blue anti-squadron dice, and a black die for attacking capital ships. Now, she does have counter 3. Whoa, just super powerful, really strong. And considering that as an ace, she also has brace and scatter, only 17 points, a really, really good ace. And a lot of Rebel players like to bring Shara Bey instead of, why bring 2 A-Wings when you can bring Shara Bey, who's way more survivable in most situations, and her special ability is really why you bring her. So while performing a counterattack, each critical icon adds 1 damage to the damage total. Now, typically, for squadrons, only the blue hits deal damage. Here, I'll put one up on here. So typically only the blue hits, which is, it's an 8-sided die and has 4 hit sides to it. So you already have a 50-50 chance of rolling damage. Well, now the critical symbols, which the blue die already has 2 critical symbols of, well, now your damage potential just went from 50% to 75%, and you also have 2 accuracy. So if you're getting hit by an ace, let's just do a thing here. Let's say Dengar had attacked Shara. Well, now I'm going to counter with counter 3, and hey, look, I got an accuracy and I got 2 damage. So I'm going to lock Dengar's scatter, and he has to brace, and he's going to take a damage from that. And I've had situations where I've thrown like tie after tie after tie at Shara, and just counter 3 damage, my tie explodes. Counter 3 damage, my tie explodes. She murders generic squadrons like nobody's business. Now, there's definitely some situations, like for example, the TIE Interceptors, can they roll a perfect roll and take her out and with 2 attacks? It can happen. Absolutely. But I've seen Shara wipe out. I sent 4 TIE Interceptors after her, and they all rolled like crap, and she countered each one and killed each one. So she immediately gained me 44 points. She was killed by the 4th TIE Interceptor. So, okay, they lost Shara Bey for 17 points. They killed 4 TIE Interceptors at 11 points. So 17 points to a 44-point trade, man, you'll make that any day. And now you've neutered the enemy's squad ball. If you have to attack Shara, you just gotta be willing to accept the fact that you're gonna take losses for doing so. Or if you're using aces, that they're just gonna get really pummeled. So for Imperials, not to get too much into gameplay and tactics, her Bane, Saber Squadron. It's the only snipe squadron Imperials have. Saber will ruin Shara's day. Or Valen Rudor, because Valen Rudor, if Shara's engaged with another squadron that's hostile to her, you can't counter on Valen Rudor if he's also engaged. So that's 2 squadrons Imperials can use to try to get around that awful counter. Otherwise, there's nothing else crazy going on with Shara. It's pretty standard staple. It just she does the things she already does good, even better. All right, let's get into our final guy here, Tycho. So Tycho Chili Luau. Star Wars names, they're hard. We know this. Again, unique. You can only ever have one of them in your fleet. Again, same stats we already recognize. Again, brace, scatter. He's 16 points. So he's even a point cheaper than Shara, but again, really, really good. And why is he really good? So he has counter 2. No super big change there. His card ability is you are not prevented from moving or attacking ships while you are engaged. Why is this important? Well, first off, he is a staple in Sato fleets. If you're bringing Sato and you're not bringing Tycho, why? Because the whole point about Sato is that you want to activate his ability, but the biggest thing is your squadrons will often get tied down, and you can't have them do what they want. Tycho just says, nah, I'm out of here. Nothing can stop me now. So typically when squadrons are engaged, they can't move away. And even but in Tycho's case, he can. He can be just like, nope, I'm out. See ya. And even if he's like tied down by like intel or anything like that, it doesn't matter. Tycho does what he wants. You can't stop this. Even if he's surrounded by all of these TIE interceptors. Let's say there's a raider right here. He can be like, yeah, you know what? I'm still gonna shoot the raider. I'm gonna blast it. I missed, but that's all right. And now I'm gonna bounce out. See you guys later. Like, can't stop this guy. Nothing can stop him. He can. Now, when he's attacking squadrons, he can't just shoot any squadron he wants. Obviously, if there's escort nearby and he's engaged with it, he still has to shoot the escort. But you can't stop him from shooting ships, and you can't stop him from running away. So you'll often see him just bounce around. Opponents will be really smart in placing their obstacles. You'll see him bounce from obstacle to obstacle, not because he needs it to get away or get around, but just because he can, and it's just helping him, keeping him alive longer, so you can get more use and benefit from, again, you largely see him in Tycho or Sato fleets. And you can see him in other things as well. There's a lot of variety you can get him. Again, he's only 16 points, so he's just really good, especially if you're trying to bring like a light anti-squadron screen. And before I get into that, I want to finish out here with the rest of this here. So there's only two interactions I need to cover with him. How does he interact with something like advanced transponder net, which says friendly heavy squadrons at distance 1 to 2 prevent engaged squadrons from attacking the ship? So which card effect wins out? Does the heavy transponder net win out, or does Tycho win out? Tycho wins out. Because again, the advanced transponder net just says that you are prevented from attacking ships. Well, Tycho's card specifically says you are not prevented. So in that head-to-head matchup, Tycho's card ability ranks higher than the advanced transponder net, because you already are prevented from attacking squadrons or attacking ships if you're engaged by squadrons. But Tycho you're not prevented pretty much for any reason, unless that card specifically had spelled out in another way that says you can't attack a ship. Like, for example, if it says you cannot attack ships. If it said that, Tycho wouldn't be able to hit the raider. But he can. Advanced transponder net does not stop him. Want to be clear on that. What about instigator? Can Tycho still move away if he's at distance 1 of instigator? Because again, it says enemy squadrons are engaging you, which engagement, again, you can't move or run away. So in an interesting thing I want to point out real quick, instigator works on intel squadrons, meaning if intel squadrons get at distance 1 of instigator, they can't run away. In almost all of the cases, they can run away, but in this, they can't, because technically they're engaged by enemy squadrons that they can't intel and make heavy, so they can't get away. The only squadron in the game that can get away from instigator is Tycho, because again, Tycho is not prevented from moving. All instigator gives is just engagement. Again, intel can't run away. Tycho's the only guy who can run away because he's just that awesome. All right. So what was I going to get back before about what is a great squadron screen? You'll see a lot of rebels bring just Shara and Tycho, and that's such, for their point cost and what they do, they can take on generic ties all day long. So I mean, it's, they're buying you about a round. If you're facing a squad heavy, they might be able to shoot them and take them out in a round, especially if they're getting alphaed by somebody like Salone. In which case they're not great in that matchup, but in almost every other case, they're just enough to buy your ships around, at most 2, which is typically all you need depending on deployment and what's going on. So your ships will survive getting bombed, get on target, kill the carriers, and then fly away from the enemy squadrons that no longer can be commanded. Another tactic that a lot of people have been bringing along is something like Shara and Tycho, and they'll bring Hera Syndulla, and Hera Syndulla will give them Rogue, and then you just wait for your opponent to do whatever he wants, and then you just send your Rogue A-Wings that just kind of counter whatever his movement's going to be. There's a lot of uses you can get out of them. For Rebels, the compact package accomplishes a lot. You can't go wrong. Obviously, it all depends on your fleet composition and what you're trying to accomplish. But that's A-Wings. We got no other crazy things going on with them. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Thank you guys for joining me, and hey, I'll catch you all next time.